Okay, good evening, everybody. We're going to get started with our event. So welcome to this edition of the Albers Executive Speaker Series. This evening, we're happy to have with us David and Rick Cantu, who are the co-founders of Redapt, and they will be speaking on delivering continuous innovation. Before starting our program, I'd like to introduce Father Steve Sundborg, President of Seattle University. Father.
Thanks very much, Joe, and I always like to have a little bit of an opportunity to welcome you to the Albers Executive Speaker Series. So Happy New Year, Albers, and congratulations on all of you who are able to be here in the Seattle Squeeze, or the arm of gridlock, or the Viaduct, or Seattle's way of having a shutdown in order to be in sympathy with the national shutdown government, whatever we do here. It's great to have you here. A lot of soccer players here. I want to thank Rick and David for their support of athletics at Seattle University, of soccer, of many other kinds of things, particularly in Albers, and their keen interest in education of young people in STEM, that they have that kind of chance for life. And there's two congratulations I'd like to give, particularly to Joe Phillips. He didn't put me up to this, but the first is that I received and read over the weekend the Applied Data Science Task Force report, which has some very substantive kind of recommendations for the university about the importance of data science education as part of the education of all Seattle University students. And it was just an excellent effort, and Joe was the chairperson of that task force, and I really want to thank him for that. And also recently, because he can't say no to me, I went to his office and asked whether he would be the co-chair of the search committee for the new CFO of Seattle University, and he also agreed to do that. So thanks for being here tonight, and let's congratulate Joe Phillips.
Okay, thank you, Father. And I want to welcome you to a very historic event tonight, because this is the first Brother Act of the Speaker Series in its 17-year history. So thank you for doing that for us. So the format for our event tonight is that Sue Oliver, our Executive Director of our Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center, she's going to serve as the moderator of the discussion. So she's going to start off with some questions, and then she will cut to the audience for audience questions. So make sure you have your questions ready when we do that. So I'm going to turn it over to Sue, and she's going to take care of introducing our speakers. Sue?
Can everybody hear me? Can anybody not hear me? All right, so this is a participatory event. They all are, but in particular, these folks asked me to really have you put your thinking hats on and your critical thinking, and as I read the bio and we have this discussion up here, we're going to turn it over pretty quickly to you so that you can share your questions. So whatever's on your heart and mind as you're hearing them share their wonderful story. So let's start with what Redapt is. I got a little bit of information here I'm going to read. Oh, and just a reminder to please silence your cell phones, whatever, anything that beeps or buzzes or flashes, whatever that might be for you. All right, so, I'm going to give them a chance to do it, right? All right, so Redapt is a Northwest-based technology company focused on providing data-centered infrastructure and cloud engineering services. An initial investment of $1,000 seeded the company that is now closing on $2 billion in total revenue. And in 22 years of business, the company has pivoted several times. So think about some questions around pivoting. Several times from a boutique reseller of refurbished computer servers to an international systems integrator. Today, the company serves many of the world's most recognizable enterprise brands. Let's start with Rick here. So Rick is the CEO and he's the co-founder of Redapt, and he's responsible for leading the overall company vision, business strategy, and growth investments. He's passionate about maintaining a high-energy, collaborative, and results-oriented culture that drives tremendous growth and success for the organization and its people. And David is the co-founder as well, as you now know. And he's responsible for leading Redapt's internal technology team and marketing efforts. In addition to being instrumental in Redapt's culture, he's responsible for looking ahead and ensuring Redapt continuously adapts for emerging technologies. Both Rick and David founded Redapt while in their early 20s. This was last year, right? And Redapt was bootstrapped and is 100% privately owned and operated. And just a few recent honors that we want to recognize. Ernst & Young named them the Northwest Technology Entrepreneurs of the Year for 2017. Redapt was the fastest growing private company list in Washington, a list of the fastest growing private companies in 2016. An Intel Hybrid Cloud Solutions Partner of the Year for 2015. And then Dell's Enterprise Solution Provider of the Year for 2014. So just a few minor awards right there. So with that, let's get into the why behind Redapt. And I wanted to ask both of you a little bit. Have you heard of Simon Sinek's Start With Why? Why did you create Redapt? And tell us a little bit about your journey.
That's so the why of why we created Redapt is it really kind of happened by accident. Rick and I were freshly out of college, in the workforce. We're actually working for an organization that a company that my uncle owns. So we're kind of from a family of, there's some entrepreneurship and there's a lot of not entrepreneurship in our family. But that company that we were working for, while Rick and I were there, we identified an opportunity or niche that organization was not serving. We actually tried to foster that within the company, and they essentially said we're not interested. So we kind of looked at each other, and a week later, we were operating our business out of the basement of my uncle's house, and that business was really, it was an underserved market, and we saw that we could kind of resell refurbished computers essentially, and make a great business out of it. So we just, that's how we started. It was, there's nothing super sexy about that, but we saw an opportunity in the market and took a chance.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that thought. I think entrepreneurship for us, number one, we had a lot of mentors in our life. Our uncle really helped guide us in trying to make a decision on what we wanted to be. And I remember when I was 15 years old, thinking what was next and dedicating time to prepare myself for what was life outside of soccer and what was life outside of school. He was a great visionary for us, and I started working for him when I was 19 years old, and Dave, I believe you started when you were 20. But the company that we started originally was just by default, and when we made that leap, it was a decision we all made together that let's look at this market. We saw an opportunity for resale, and we saw the market with just emerge in front of us in Sun Microsystems, and so that was our first leap into really making that decision.
So one of the big questions for any new venture, especially with the high attrition rates, is growth, and you've been very successful at scaling Redapt. So can you share a little bit about some of the success criteria or factors behind being able to successfully scale the business?
Yeah, I think, the kind of the real driving factor behind our business scaling initially was, we grew up in the Northwest. Rick and I, we spent our high school years in Renton. I haven't not worked since I was 12 years old, right? And so, anyway, we grew up in the Northwest, and we actually have something really special up here where the Northwest really started a movement around customer experience. You probably, if you're going to be in business today, a lot of businesses are focusing a lot of their efforts around providing customer experience. And so if you look at, the Nordstroms, the Costcos, that's what we grew up in. And we identified that as something that would differentiate us in our business early on, and applied that we did a great job. And so what happened is we really started out fairly narrowly focused on what we were selling. And because of the customer experience, our customers were coming back and asking us to do more, right? To sell them other things or provide other services. And that's what kind of helped grow our business. And then the other aspect of that is that you guys are going to change jobs in your career. And our customers over the lifetime have gone on to other companies and then called us back from there and really expanded what we're doing. So Rick was involved actually in something that he can share with you, but a really cool experience around a customer asking us to do something that has driven hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue.
Yeah, and I think early on when we grew, there was a lot of investments in new emerging markets, servicing new areas of growth. We were always interested in what was next. Spending a lot of time in the Bay Area, we would go and meet startups and talk to companies about how their growth initiatives and what's next. You would have companies that would literally have 12 employees and they would be selling billions of dollars on an idea. I think we've always supported entrepreneurialism from the start, which attracted us to those types of businesses. But being able to pivot and understand that and grow with these emerging technologies. So Zynga was one of the first customers that we looked at, and I don't know if you guys were familiar with it, but they developed these games called Farmville. There was social media. There was a lot of things happening in our world. And if they wouldn't have made a decision to launch that game on a public cloud, they might not have been able to scale. And so we took those lessons learned. We were able to help figure out a private cloud scenario, help them build infrastructure that helped them scale their businesses, and then they would be able to make decisions based upon those outcomes.
And I think the other kind of really major contributor to us being able to scale was we kind of figured out the finance piece. That took a while, right? We started our company with $1,000, and Rick and I joke about this, but there were times when we were very successful to the point to where people wouldn't sell any more gear to us or work with us anymore. We actually our response to that was, well, we got to stop selling. Let's play some video games, right? Or let's hang out in the basement, and then we'd run out to the mailbox and wait for our check. So we could go back and kind of start the cycle again. But we worked really hard on our banking relationship. I actually still remember our first banker's name and kind of follow his career and been pretty supportive of him because he really helped launch us. But once we became bankable, we kind of kept going up year by year in revenue, and we became bankable about the time that the first kind of internet bubble started, and that's the year we went from 12 million to 60 million a year with about 20 guys we went to college with. It was a really exciting time, but if we wouldn't have reached that milestone, our story would be much different.
I think finance, if you're looking to start a business, is probably the most important thing, and really maintaining those relationships so that you can scale. We had a lot of decisions to make, and the one thing that Dave and I always remembered is we only have so much money in our lunch pail as private. We wouldn't want to overspend, so we were really practical about our investments and making sure that we could retain people and continue to develop those people to grow. And a lot of times you're trying to spend money to grow faster, and we really had to balance that well with our growth and make sure we're hitting the loan covenants and staying within our ratio. So I think that banker is still our friend today, and will still be our friend for a long time. But typically it's about a 2-year cycle before you are bankable. I mean, he was able to get an exception for us with only being in business less than a year.
So the more I've gotten to know you and the organization, it's just so impressive. Your corporate culture, your company culture is huge. So tell us a little bit about the culture, because as some of you are going out and getting your first jobs or transitioning to other jobs, you think about, where do I really want to work? And as a family-owned business and some of the things you've shared, you have a really strong culture. So say a little bit about that, and then what do you look for in terms of a fit if somebody wants to come and join the company?
Well, I think I'll kind of twist that a little bit, and I really want to relate it to students that are going to be in the job market pretty soon. You guys are really fortunate. There's an all-time record low unemployment rate, and you really well get to choose where you work, or you're going to have a lot of choices, and you're going to have people really heavily recruiting you. So the reason that, or as you're out through that process, the company's culture and how they treat you and how you respond to that is going to be a big part of your decision process. And for us, we've always been a culture company. And is anyone familiar with the New Zealand rugby team, the All Blacks? So they're highly successful, like a generations of success as a rugby team, and they have one culture, and you guys can Google it, it's a little different, but it's no jerks. And that's kind of what, like, the top thing that we hire for. People come in the door and they're qualified to come work for us. But at the end of the day, if I'm involved in a hiring process or anything, I really reiterate to people that our culture is about how we collaborate and work together. Nobody needs to think, act, and look the same. But at the end, we have to have that mentality of we all win together or we don't. And that doesn't happen unless everyone has a team mentality. What Rick and I have built is a lot of people come into organizations, and I think Bill is in the audience here, but he's a Seattle U grad, by the way. People come in and they experience our work culture, and it's a lot like being on a high-performing sports team. That we have that mentality, and that's the most important thing to us.
Yeah, I mean, teamwork, curiosity, vision, having the ability to work towards a common goal and have an outcome, whether you win or lose. It's what did we take as those learning lessons or inputs in that situation, and how do we grow? I think in technology, when you're enabling visionary companies like Uber and Twitter and Zynga, we have to be nimble. And if we can't think of what's next and push the limits, how do we grow? And so Dave and I have always been opening to pivot and make changes, but it's really curiosity and just vision and making that leap forward. And that's what we've been about in the 25 years of business.
Do you know it when you see it?
You know when you don't see it.
We're going to shift into challenges because we know you haven't had any challenges along this journey, right? We talked about what are some of the biggest challenges that you have faced with the organization individually, and how have you overcome them?
That's a pretty good question. I think if we look at today, our biggest challenge is people, and it's attracting the right people to our organization with the right talents. We're in technology, and so we're competing against Microsoft, Google, Apple. One of those companies' benchmarks is with Apple. Their revenue per employee is $2.1 million. Google's is about $1.2 million, and Microsoft's is about $780,000. They're selling software, right? So their cost of goods is zilch, right? Or whatever they're investing, and we're in a little bit different position. So the economics of what they can pay data scientists and what they can pay technologists is a little bit different. Now we find ourselves like competitive in the market, but it is a challenge to get talent. Unemployment is an all-time low, and I think in technology, if someone didn't have a job right now, it's a red flag. Everyone's employable. So that's probably our biggest challenge right now, which is leading us to look at, we're establishing other regions where the economics are a little bit better and where we have better access to talent. And we're in the services business, so if we can't provide services to our customer in the terms of people, then we can't grow. It's a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, in technology in general, I think the average tenure of employment is 2 to 3 years. And so for us, keeping up, but I think keeping on visionary projects, I think keeping technical people interested in what's next and constantly training and developing those people, we in order to grow and scale, we ended up looking at different challenges, and that was acquiring companies and people just in this market is really interesting. And so, it's also what's next, AI, machine learning, how do we look at the future of our business and being able to stay relevant in those businesses. And I think adding value to our customers is really important to Dave and I we can't walk into the Ubers of the world and expect that we have the best guys in the world, but we enable these great companies to evolve in over time. And so there's two parts of that business. So it's been a fun journey for us, but we learn something new every day, and we'll continue to learn something every day from moving forward.
Well, so I use the word challenge, but if I shifted it to failure, because we talk a lot around entrepreneurship, around relationship with the word failure. When I say failure in the context of an entrepreneurship endeavor, a new venture like Redapt, what do you say?
I'd say fail fast and then take those customer inputs and then how you adapt and evolve. And I think we've been okay with failing. We've failed thousands of times, and we're never going to be perfect. We are humble beginnings, but we are visionary, and we're going to want to continue to strive to make that customer experience right, and we always do the right thing, and I think that's important.
All right, we have one more question before we open it up to you, so you can, whatever's on your mind and heart, you can share. So there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of things going on in the press, in the world about the tech industry and diversity. So can you say a little bit about where you are, what your thoughts are about the diversity in the tech industry?
From our perspective is we see that is absolutely a challenge. And it really boils down to, I think two major factors from our perspective is that one is just access to higher education. It's literally, I think your chances of being successful in the technology market without a higher education degree are pretty slim. There's always that, I don't know if you guys saw, but there was a 13-year-old that got like a $2 million a year contract from Google for data science, but I feel like that's an outlier. That's kind of one aspect. If you don't come from a family, or you're not willing to kind of take on that personal debt to go through the challenges that higher education offers or qualify for scholarships, you're kind of a step behind. And I think even more so than that, if as a child you're not encouraged to get involved in STEM and embrace it and be a part of it, then that just makes it even more challenging to hit that career track. Rick and I, we're pretty passionate about that. We actually get involved with other programs that encourage, diversity within IT. And we're pretty proactive about doing what we can to make that happen. And then actually, Peter Parker, who's in the room here, Peter runs our data analytics practice, and over the holidays we kind of met with each team, and I was blown away by his team and the diversity that he's built. He's nailed it. So we have a lot of people in our organization that are just as passionate about changing that.
Yeah, it's really important. I think it's a hot topic on every, Facebook, Microsoft, all the big companies, and how do we as an organization attract people that are interested in these STEM programs and embracing that. And so I think it'll be us kind of changing our culture and embracing and being more collaborative over time. I think it'll help attract a lot of different people to our space, and we hope to do that.
Thank you. Do we have some mics for the audience?
There we go. Ooh. All right. Well, first I want to say thank you for coming tonight. It's really good to hear you and kind of learn about your journey and some of the pitfalls and some of the joys that you've experienced. And one of the questions I have is that you guys started basically like a garage business and grew it out of nothing. And as leaders in that business, it basically was just you two, and then you grew that organization and had to have people and develop them. So how did you develop yourselves to be leaders of an organization as you go from a small business to a bigger business?
That's a really good question. We were able to set a mentorship with our uncle who ran a business for about 10 years, combined with, we were able to join EO, which is a local organization that you get connected with other entrepreneurs, and you have monthly meetings, and then you continue your education and different paths and speakers. But the main port that we got behind it is a network of people that we could trust, and you could talk about business decisions, things that were important, or things that you didn't need to overcome if you were trying to negotiate a line of credit, or you were trying to deal with an internal employee issue. It was a really good sounding board for us to have, and it was also able to connect us to local people in the market. Without those support or people you trust, you really need to bounce ideas. And what Dave and I learned over time is that you take time to make decisions. We try to make them right. We try not to do them impulsively. And so over time, I don't know if it helped or not, but also having my brother, a family-owned business, is that we really learned to trust each other and run things by each other. And that's been a great thing for us.
Yeah, and I would just add to that I think what we've learned through leadership is that a big aspect of leadership is you're not a leader unless you have people following you. And you have to listen to the people in your organization, respond to their kind of needs. They want direction, they want to show ownership. We're fortunate that we're in a consultative business, and that we do a lot of we really help our customers, and so we have people in our organization that are 10 times smarter than I am. I'm just happen to be the co-founder, right? So we listen to them, and we take, you have to take action on what the other smart people in your organization see, the opportunities.
Thanks for coming here and sharing your experience. So my question is, a lot of businesses start as partnerships, but they tend to fail just because of different personalities of founders and different types of conflicts. And you guys are an example of successful partnership. And so my question is whether you guys had some kind of conflicts or disagreements on whether you have to pivot along the way, and how did you resolve those conflicts?
Rick and I don't talk outside of work. No, we literally, I think that because of our involvement in EO and seeing other family-owned businesses, I've seen more. If you go into a business with a family or a friend, you're more likely to lose that relationship than keep it. And I think that with Rick and I, we recognize that we would rather be family and brothers than right. And so we have disagreements on a daily basis, but at the end of the day, we come back to the table because that's just our values are elsewhere.
Yeah, but I think we still have disagreements. So, but I do think having an operating agreement. When we started the business, we kind of knew our swim lane, and I like to say that we respected each other and trusted each other, and really had that defined and an outcome behind it, and that is important because when you trust somebody and you can understand that they have their area of expertise and you can stay in yours, but we collaborate, we make good decisions together that are better united. And I think that we had to leave our egos down a long time ago, and now we're just figuring out how to evolve and make good decisions.
Thank you. I'm very interested about entrepreneurship itself, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about it. Are there two kinds of people, those who are entrepreneurial and those who are not? Or can a person who's not entrepreneurial, kind of like, either a person's on the mathematical side or the literature side, is there kind of the entrepreneurial and not? Can you become entrepreneurial? And if you were not, how would you become that? What's your view about entrepreneurship itself? Is it about risk? Is it what makes a person entrepreneurial and someone else not?
So, in our organization, Rick and I were the co-founders, and we get recognized by the community as being entrepreneurs. But, we were able to take that leap because of our tolerance for risk. I joke, when we started the company, I literally had nothing to lose. I lived in my mom's basement. Like, there's nowhere down. I don't think she'd kick me out, but thankfully I didn't find out. But I think within our organization, we have entrepreneurs, and maybe they have outside. It's hard as an entrepreneur to go, I'm going to put my house at risk, I'm going to put my family at risk, I'm going to put my kids' education at risk so I can go and try this. It's quite selfish. So we have a lot of entrepreneurs in our organization that they get to leverage our organization as a platform to be entrepreneurial. I think entrepreneurialism is innate to more people than you would think.
But I don't think it's predefined to an introvert or an extrovert. I think it's predefined to having a vision and being able to execute upon that vision. I think, and along the way, you have to make yourself vulnerable that this may not be the right decision, but let's go out and try to take this to market. Let's go try to have a conversation and then evolve and adapt to, maybe changing that vision, because you could have the best product on the shelf, but if you're not going to figure out what the customer has a need or necessity for, then you're not going to be able to run your business.
Hey, how's it going? I was just curious, you hear a lot about digital transformation and a focus in the enterprise of getting into machine learning and AI. Where have you guys seen those applications actually impact business value and strategic at your customer accounts that you guys are working with here? Or any applications of that?
He throws me all the technology softballs.
I know customer names.
Well, we've seen data and analytics be absolutely a necessity for our customers to be able to kind of survive. What we're seeing in the market in general is that people are less likely to go into a store, or if you use Starbucks as an example, people are less likely to even interact with the cashier, right? So you're kind of ordering stuff and walking in there. So the need for companies to go through their digital transformation and react to like how customers want to interact with their organization and get a customer experience is essential to kind of staying in business. In the case of data and analytics, AI and machine learning, we're seeing our customers are using data to make more informed decisions, and not only look back historically at data and kind of like analyze what's happened, but we're looking at customers that are looking at data and predicting what's going to happen. And those are the people that are making smarter, more informed decisions and will end up earning market share. So we're, Peter's team is doing tons of projects around that. By the way, he's looking for talent.
Yeah, but I mean, it goes beyond that. I think if you look at the stats on the S&P 500 with companies that haven't evolved over time, and I think it's something like 60% of them are no longer, they've been acquired, or they've kind of moved out of S&P 500. So those companies that embrace digital transformation and what's next, we can help them a lot of different ways. I know we've done chatbots on Juniper's website. We've done a lot of things that help enable companies scale. Instead of doing things with call centers and different ways, there's a lot of ways to take advantage of the technology that's available to us in our market.
I had a question that was in my pocket here about if nobody asked it, and we have a lot of students that are at various points getting ready to graduate, maybe just graduated, maybe it's thinking about how you want to compete and get the job that you really want to have. So what are your words of wisdom, particularly if you go back to where they are now? I said yesterday, we're going to go back to when you were in school. What are some of the ideas or suggestions, words of wisdom that you'd have for yourself or for these folks out here that are getting ready to go and get that first job or second job? continue to thrive?
So, I got asked this question earlier this week from a group of diverse, kind of technologists that are coming out into the job market. And, one of my first things is just looking at your career over time is stay somewhere, right? Like as I look at resumes, I really, want to know that someone's going to be at an organization, commit to it, and really buy in. But if you don't have anything on your resume yet, you guys are in the fortunate position where you get to choose where you work. There are going to people, there are going to be multiple companies looking for talent. And so make sure your home is somewhere that you want to be for a while, that you, pay great, but make sure you understand your manager, that is someone that you want to work for, and is someone that is also going to invest in you as a person and help you grow. No one wants to stay, those first jobs are terrible, right? So you're going to have to sweat it out possibly, but make sure that it's a company that you like and that it's a culture that you're a good fit for, and it's one that's going to support you in your career.
And with that culture, find a company that has a culture that you like. What are some of how do you find that out? You make it sound so easy, but how does somebody go and figure that out? Especially with not a lot of time maybe around the interview that's tomorrow.
Yeah, I think, finding the right fit for you is, it's a personal draw or a passion or something that interests you, but it's also the curiosity to learn, and that you're going into an environment. Technology is sometimes not familiar to everybody, but we're not necessarily looking for business analytics majors. We're looking for people that want to get into business and get started, whether you're in customer service, you want to learn sales, or you want to learn just about what's happening in the market. There's a lot of different jobs that we're trying to get people enabled that are curious about businesses, want to help businesses have better outcomes, and really help endure that entrepreneurial spirit to learn and have a passion for it.
Do you have any questions for the audience? Anything that you want to ask them?
How's Seattle youth soccer going to do next year?
Somebody better answer. Wait.
Here he comes, Bill.
Seattle Youth Soccer is going to do good next year, by the way. So I have one question for you guys. Most of you don't know, I do work for Rick and Dave at Redapt. So I have a question. You guys, at least I want you guys to talk about it. You guys should talk about a little bit about our hiring practice, especially with athletes and the athletes in the room, and then talk about what characteristics you found in young people that make them successful, and what you've seen as you've done things in all the different platforms that we've hired for.
That's a good point, Bill. I think, early on, you've been with us for 20 years now. We looked for people that were passionate, that wanted to compete. You walk into a company and things aren't easy. And, there's always someone luring you to what's next or what's there. But the people that really persevere are committed to growth. They're committed to the organization. They're committed to the customer. They found a way to be resilient. I know in soccer, we like to think that, or any sport for that matter, they're just going to walk out and win. But there's a lot that goes behind it. There's training, there's dedication, there's lessons learned, there's teams around you. Not everybody's the goal scorer, not everybody is, the star player, but we have to function together. Whether you're in sales or operations or marketing, we all work together. And it's the people that stick it out that really become part of that fabric. They're looking for culture, they're looking for vision, and we're looking for people that want to take risk and have fun, right? This business is fun, it can be great, you get to meet great customers doing amazing things in the market, and we're enablers for that. So I would say that commitment is something that you would look for in anything, and what we look for is somebody willing to give us that time, and we'll give you the time back.
I have a question, and thank you for sharing your innermost thoughts with us. But when we look at what an entrepreneur is, who is somebody always looking for opportunity, and I'm sure in the back of your minds, as in any entrepreneur, the opportunity to buy, merge, sell always sort of comes up. And as you peer into the future, has that ever happened to you folks?
So we've had, Rick and I have been in business for 22 years. We've had, we acquired an organization this year, so we wanted to build a cloud engineering services capability. We were doing that organically, but we're ADD. We wanted to happen faster, so we ended up acquiring an organization. That's one example of us just being really interested in growth. And then, we've had, was it 2.5 years ago, we had an organization come in, evaluate evaluate us value-wise, and they gave us a $180 million offer, and we turned it down. So we're seeing that happen all the time. Rick and I still see a lot of upside in our company. We're really excited about it, and we actually value, at this stage of our careers, we value being in charge of our own destiny. So yeah, we see all kinds of things happening.
Along those lines, so through all those pivots and those obstacles you guys faced, why did you stick it out and not walk away when money was good? Why keep pushing forward and then grow your business?
Cultural alignment with the organization that came in. You build lifetime relationships with people that you're behind, and we wanted to continue that legacy. We saw an opportunity of growth and continue in our space. So we always look at each other and look around the room and say, gee, that's a great, and we would love to be part of that brand, but we have a little bit more left in us, and we want to be finding what's next and continue to help the technology emerge.
I would say, just adding on to Rick's point, in the event of the offer that we had, there was not cultural alignment with our organization, and we're not the only people that have built this company. We actually we hired all of our employable friends. But our family has grown over time, and we owe it to them. Like, they're, not everyone after an acquisition is going to be in a position where they don't have to work again. And we didn't see it as a viable option to allow the people that have helped us build our organization work for someone that we wouldn't want to work for.
I think that was the luxury of also being private, is we didn't have anybody kind of forcing us. It wanted to be the nice organic feel of, if we're going to build our legacy, we want to choose something that can live on, not necessarily get a cash out for us. And so we are a family-run business. We always will be. We support the people. We encourage them to make decisions, and we support them. Not every decision is great, but we take inputs, and we help make those lifetime relationships.
You've emphasized in your presentation labor scarcity, the kind of talent you need. Is the Seattle and Greater Seattle and Northwest area reaching capacity to sustain the growth that has been touted for in these last few years, in your opinion?
Seattle's got to come up big. I think that we are challenged in the local area. If you look at the employers and the organizations that are flocking to Seattle, there's new companies here, right? So Google's announced they're here, Apple's here, Facebook is here, not to mention a number of other kind of like early stage startups that have billion-dollar market kind of valuations. So I think there's not enough local talent coming into the market to serve the needs, which is driving salaries higher and cost of living higher. But I don't see an end to it either. if that makes sense.
We've started looking outside and creating 5 geographic regions for us to focus in on, but we've not given up on Seattle. There's great tech community, there's people, there's learning centers that can help guide the path, including this really nice one here. So we look at it as a constantly emerging market that we would love to help encourage kids to get into these STEM programs and find out what's next. And the technical debt in a lot of these organizations across the United States, it's becoming even more as these Facebooks and Googles and Microsofts take all the talent. So we need people that really embrace this vision and journey to help take these solutions to smaller organizations or mid-market and continue that trend.
I have, okay, got it.
I was just wondering if you could talk about supporting the community and what you do in the community. I'm sure you talk about encouraging students and speaking. You said that you spoke to an underrepresented minority group, so I was just wondering what you do in that area.
The community is really important to me. Dave and I came from humble backgrounds. We had a single mother. She supported us. Our parents got divorced when we were 5. Our dad was in the Washington State Patrol. He was one of the first Hispanics in the class. So, we kind of grew up in Kent, Washington, where there wasn't a lot available to us. So I personally give scholarships to single mothers. I look at supporting the university in sports. I think sports is the equal denominator for perseverance and dedicating yourself to helping develop a kid's character or push them through success. I would say we do that from sports, sponsoring local soccer from youth, and then I was part of the Sounders board for about 8 years, and I really look at it as a connectivity through me as a person. What it brought to me and the community around soccer. It is really the fabric of a lot of things that are special here to me, but also it's chance, it's scholarships, it's helping kids figure out where they're going to be.
I would just, mirroring that, the program that I was, that Rick and I both work with is called Year Up, and they really focus on helping disadvantaged people that are interested in technology, getting the opportunity to go to school, and then really kind of connect them with businesses and people in the community to ensure that that next jump in their career is kind of there waiting for them. So, we'll do that. And I think just Rick and I are super fortunate. Like you said, we grew up in pretty humble beginnings. A lot of kind of not civil service type jobs in our background, and we're fortunate to be in a position and to use Redapt as a platform to help others.
One final question to send everybody out, hopefully on an optimistic note. How optimistic are you about the future, not just of Redapt, but as far as the economy and jobs and all that? And we're hearing a lot of optimism, but what would you say about the 10 years hence, what you think things will look like, and how optimistic are you about it, the future?
In 10 years, none of us are going to have to work. No, I'm joking. I think as far as technology, that what's happening right now with data and AI and analytics, they're calling it the fourth industrial revolution. And I think if you're in technology, especially in kind of like emerging technologies, I feel like you're in a really good position to drive great opportunities for yourself, but also the economy.
We're optimistic. I mean, we're hiring, we're looking into new markets, and we're supporting great customer trends. And like Dave said, we can't scale fast enough and looking for talent. So there's a lot of opportunity in our space.
And Seattle's a great place to be then.
It's the best.
Well, thank you so much. Dean Joe, do you have anything to add?
Thank you very much, Sue, for your facilitation. Thank you, David and Rick, for being here tonight. Let's give them a round of applause. So thank you for joining us, and I hope you can be here for our next event, which is February 21st. I believe. Thank you.